Installing on Mac. So this is a bit different than the other installations, because on Mac, you typically have a different installation procedure. See, installing software on a Mac generally falls into two buckets. Either you go through an installer or you drag an app into your app folder. And there are installers for Postgres for Mac, but there is also the Postgres app. So if you go to postgresapp.com, what you see here is that Postgres app is a fully featured Postgres SQL installation based on standard Mac app. Okay, what does this mean? Well, it means it's a zero install Postgres. Basically, you drag it into your applications folder, you click initialize, and it basically does everything for you. Now, this does bring with it two questions. Well, how does it differ from our initial installation? Because as you may remember, we had certain settings, certain defaults in place. We had localhost, port 5432, a username, a password, etc., etc. Well, when we go with Mac and we use the Mac app, basically the only things that are changing are the username and the password, because the app configures its environment based on your current user. So the user you're logged in with on a Mac. So the username you use on your MacBook is the username you will use when logging into Postgres. And the password you use when logging into your Mac is the password you will use when logging into Postgres. So if you have no password, that means there will be no password. So if we go back to the website and we go over to the download section, what you can see here is that there are multiple releases. There is a Postgres app with Postgres 12. You have a Postgres app that has 10, 11, and 12. You have all supported versions of SQL. You can literally have a Postgres app that can run the multiple versions of Postgres. Now, since we're focusing on 12, I want to keep it light here. So once you press download, it will download the installer. And once the installer is done downloading, what you will see is the following. You will see Postgres over here that you can drag into the application folder. And once you drag it into the application folder, what you will see is that you have the Postgres available. And so when we run that, what you'll see here is that you have servers and server settings. So when we go into server settings, you can give your database a name. I called it ZTM from Zero to Mastery. And I put the port on 4532, as we said in our slideshow, but you can change the port here to whatever you want. It'll tell you where your data directory is, where it's going to store the configs, the logs, all of that good stuff. And then when we press start, it's just as easy as that. And as you can see here, I already have all of my databases in here, but I'm going to show you how to import these databases. So hold on. One more thing we should also note is that you can have multiple databases running side by side. So if I wanted to add one and I wanted to say, well, this is my new one, I can say it runs on version 12 because that's the one we installed over here. And I can say, well, put my data in there and maybe run it on a different port potentially. Oh, it's going to complain the data directory is already used. So let's call it 13. And so now it's created a new server. And so if I stop this one over here and I press initialize, because that's what you're going to see, what you're going to see is it's going to initialize a database. Right now, my user is called education. So whatever your username is, you'll see a database for that. You'll see a template and you'll see a Postgres database. That's what it's going to initialize for you. And so now what we can do is we can import our databases. So let's get into that. But before we do that, let me change my port back to 5432 so that we follow the settings that we discussed. And let's start it. Good to go. So easy, so straightforward. Now, before we get into actually installing and putting our databases in and installing our backups, we also need to install Valentina DB. So if we go to Valentina DB, what you'll see is that under downloads, there is a download for Valentina Studio. And if you go down here, what you'll see is when you press view files, you'll see that there is the availability for Mac. And so let's press download on that one. And so once this is done downloading, we can install Valentina Studio, which is our graphical user interface. It's our way of talking to our database in an easy way. So let's open that up. And again, a drag and drop motion. Now I've already installed Valentina Studio. So let's open that up. And what you can see here is that I have my Postgres instances installed. So let me go and delete those real quick so I can show you how to set them up. So if we go back into the Postgres app, you can see here I'm running new one and I'm running it on port 5432. So if I added a bookmark, which will bookmark one of my databases so that I always have easy access to it, here you can see it's going to default to localhost, so I don't have to fill anything in. We're going to just connect it to the default database, and we're going to say my user is my username on the Mac, and my password is my password on the Mac, and the port is 5432. Now let's press OK, and as you can see, I have my database available. So that's the same database that is available over here. Now the reason you can't see these two is because they are internal. They're supposed to be hidden. You're not supposed to be able to delete these two databases. So don't, because you'll mess up your database. All right. So now that we've downloaded Valentina Studio and now that we've downloaded the Postgres app, and I've shown you how simple it is to get both up and running, we're ready to import our databases that we will be using for the course. So let's get into that.